There have already been a plethora of early mock drafts across every media publication. Sites like ESPN, PFF, Bleacher Report, Sports Illustrated, CBS Sports, and even local Chicago media. They have all released early mock drafts predicting who the Bears could pick in next year's draft. So while I'm not quite ready to switch gears to the offseason yet, especially with us being in first place in the NFC North, I did want to talk about some of the players the media has us selecting and what positions need the most help on our roster, and start getting you guys familiar with some of the biggest prospects who could end up being Chicago Bears next season. Obviously, we still have a half a season to go here, and free agency always comes before the draft, so team needs change from now until the draft. But I'm also a big fan of taking the best player available and not reaching for needs to take a less talented prospect. I want to go ahead and show off some of the players being mocked to the Chicago Bears and what positions being most commonly addressed. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, Matt Miller's recent mock has the Bears taking left tackle Caden Proctor from Alabama. So I want to start there with the left tackle position. It makes a ton of sense. Left tackle is viewed as one of the biggest holes on this roster, and it's a premium position in the NFL. You're protecting the quarterback's blind side. Anytime you have a right-handed quarterback, that left tackle position is premium. But in today's NFL, both tackle spots are premium anyway. It's also a pretty good year for tackles when it comes to the draft. There should be 3 to 5 tackles that could go in round one, with Alabama's Caden Proctor being joined by a handful of prospects. I'll list those guys on the screen. I love Miami's tackle, and Utah's Spencer Fano is pretty good as well. But the Bears could definitely look at the left tackle spot. But I honestly expect them to give Ozzie Trapillo every opportunity possible to win that job next offseason. We could have another 3 tackle battle once this year ends. Theo Benedict, Ozzie, and Karan Amagaji. So we might already have our long-term answer at the position. We have to continue developing players that we draft. But unless one of those guys steps up, we could add another tackle in April's draft. One thing is clear when it comes to this front office. At least for the first few years here, it appears that they value offense over defense when you're talking about the first round of the draft. Ryan Poles' 4 first-round picks all play on offense, and they were all selected in the top 10. Darnell Wright, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and Colston Loveland, those are core building blocks on this roster. So will 2026 finally be the year that Ryan Poles spends a first-round pick on defense? And if so, what position? For me, I think it would have to be on the defensive line. A ton of media sites are focused on the Bears adding an edge rusher. And anyone who's followed me for a while probably knows that I've expected the Bears to add a more talented edge every single year in the offseason. So far, though, the position has been mostly ignored during recent drafts. Although Ryan Poles has added 2 edge rushers the last 2 years, drafting Austin Booker in round 5 last year, and then he took Shamar Turner in round 2 this season. Now, most labeled Turner as a defensive tackle, but I've always viewed him as more of an edge rusher. The coaching staff finally agreed, and they started to use him primarily at edge right before he suffered his season-ending injury. Now, I live by the philosophy here that you can never have too many pass rushers in the NFL. So even if Booker, Turner, Sweat, and Dio Odangbo all return next season, the position could still use more help. I'll dig into it more in the offseason about our biggest needs, but it's possible the Bears choose to address defensive tackle over the edge position. But for now, I agree that we need more help at defensive end. This is good news, though, because the 2026 class of pass rushers look really stacked. Lots of different options could be available, starting with some that have been mocked to the Bears. PFF's recent mock has us taking Cassius Howe from Texas A&M. Bleacher Report recently had us selecting another edge, TJ Parker from Clemson. Many other mocks include pass rushers as well, and there are more than a handful of potential players to keep an eye on when it comes to defensive ends in 2026 class. Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami, he's the guy viewed as the consensus top edge rusher in the class, and most likely will be gone well before the Bears pick. He's this year's version of Abdul Carter. But other top options that could be on the board when the Bears pick: Clemson's TJ Parker, Auburn's Keldrick Falk, Texas David Bailey, who might just be my personal favorite. But then you have Cassius Howe from Texas A&M, LT Overton from Alabama, and a handful of other prospects who could be taken in the top 50. I think this year's edge rusher class is very talented, and it's very likely we could target this position not only based on the needs of this roster, but due to the talent available in this year's draft as well. Up to 10 edge rushers could go in the first 50 picks, giving the Bears a unique opportunity here to address a position of need without having to reach. Now, a lot will change between now and April's draft, but this is the early prognosis. The other positions that are talked about with the media here: running back, defensive tackle, linebacker, and safety. Now, running back is a tough one to evaluate. Right now, the Bears look great with a 1-2 punch of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai. But if they have an opportunity to add a player like Jeremiah Love or even Jonah Coleman, they might have to pull the trigger. Monungai will only be in the second year of his rookie deal, but we can get out of Swift's contract next year and save some money with the cap. At linebacker, it's pretty similar. I don't view it as a glaring need, but both RB and LB positions are often undervalued when it comes to draft day. It's very possible that one of these positions could be the best player on the board when the Bears go to pick, so I'm not going to rule it out. Look at some linebackers like Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese. Depending on how far they fell, they could be impact players for the Bears. I also put the safety position in this group too. It's an underrated position in this league, and it's not considered premium by front offices around the NFL. The positions that are quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, and edge rushers and cornerbacks. So I want to briefly touch on the safety position as well, because the Bears right now, their top 3 safeties on the roster are all scheduled to be free agents next year, maybe even the top 5. Look at it: Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, Jonathan Owens, Elijah Hicks, and CJ Gardner Johnson, all scheduled to hit free agency in the offseason. So one way or another here, the Bears will be forced to address the safety position, but it very well could happen in the NFL draft. I see Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker staying with the Bears, but anything can happen in the offseason. The problem with the safety position in the draft is that there is one standout player and then a bunch of day 2 prospects. That Caleb Downs is seen by many as the number 1 prospect in the entire draft. So most likely the Bears won't have a shot to land him. But I do want to play devil's advocate with this one, because safeties do not tend to get drafted as high as they're projected every single year in the NFL. And it's very rare to see a safety go in the top 10. So it is extremely realistic that even if you see his name in the top 5 in most mock drafts, that Caleb Downs falls down the draft board in April. The last 2 safeties who were projected to be top 10 picks were Kyle Hamilton and Brian Branch. Neither one went in the top 10. Hamilton was almost unanimously projected to be a top 5 guy. However, he fell all the way down to pick 14, the highest a safety has been selected in recent memory. Brian Branch, meanwhile, in 2023, he fell all the way to the second round. The Lions got him at pick 45, and he's been awesome ever since. Same thing with Jaquan Brisker and a ton of other safeties who were projected to go in round 1. Look at the 2020 and 2021 drafts. Xavier McKinney and Javon Holland were both seen as first-round picks, but both fell to round 2, going at pick number 36. The safety position is often overlooked on draft day. So even though Caleb Downs is seen as a top 3 player overall, most likely he will not be picked in the top 10. Only one safety has been taken that high since 1992, and it was Sean Taylor. So that's just something to remember when it comes to the draft. But there are more than a handful of day 2 selections that the Bears could look at for safety as well. Michigan's Rod Moore, LSU's AJ Halsey, another guy I'm a big fan of. Oregon and USC have top safeties as well. But in the past few years, I've put a ton of time into evaluating the NFL draft every offseason. But this past offseason, this was the first time in the Ryan Poles era that I had a really tough time predicting the Bears' targets. Ozzie Trapillo was a guy I thought would be a good fit, but I was way off on Colston Loveland. And when it comes to Luther Burden, I thought he should have been the first or second wide receiver taken. I liked him a lot more than the Packers' first rounder, Matthew Golden. So that's something to watch going forward as well. But the draft isn't about who Ryan Poles likes or who we like as fans either. It's about what players will fit with Ben Johnson's offense and with Dennis Allen's defense. A new era of Chicago Bears football has begun, and I'll be here to cover the draft all off season long, but I did want to give you guys an early glimpse. Now I'll get back to covering the first place Chicago Bears. Thanks again to everyone who watches. What position do you think the Bears need to draft most? Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for more year-round Bears coverage. And until next time, bear down.